Hello, I am Jun Woo Park, majoring in computer engineering. Today I would like to present the social perception of homosexuality, the laws of our society for homosexuality, the difference in perception of homosexuality in the country Korea and the United States, and what we need to go further. The reason why I came to study this topic while taking this class is simple. I have lived and experienced in a conservative Korean society for 19 years since I was born. When I was young, my best friend revealed to school that he was gay and immigrated to Texas in the US. Looking at this, I always had a lot of thoughts about homosexuality in Korean society. And when I entered the university, I first came to the United States and experienced a mature society where people of various races live together and recognize America's openness and difference. Of course, American society cannot be defined as a mature society. There are many kinds of minorities, whether in American society or Korean society, and there are many differentiated minorities in American society too. However, the social perception of sexual minorities felt that American society was much more mature than Korea. And through this class, I analyzed and explored a lot of data on why there is a difference in social perception about homosexuality and how to make a more mature society. First, let me talk about each society's perception of sexual minority. We call gay, lesbian, transgender, all this type of sexual minorities LGBT, and you've seen a lot of these LGBT people in American society. In American society, people in various fields, including Lady Gaga, Caitlyn Jenner, and Tim Cook, often making coming out to officially identify themselves as homosexuals. This act of coming out is a very courageous act for homosexual. This is because a person who has been close to him or her can be estranged from his or her identity about homosexual and can be viewed with loathing perspective. However, I think the reason why these celebrities often come out is because the social perspective of gender identity in American society is relatively mature and generous. In Korean society, it is hard to find a single celebrity who has come out like this. Social awareness of homosexuality is still close to hate, and even if you come out, it is easily to buried socially. You will be able to experience this kind of thing easily. In American society, you can easily find people who have come out of your surroundings. I have already seen two of my friends in the US for a year, but I don't think I've ever seen a gay person while living in Korea for 19 years. Amy Adamczyk, professor of sociology at John Jay College, New York City, argues that the three key factors that determine social awareness of homosexuality are economic development, democracy, and religion. The professor analyzed that the richer the country is, the more democracies are guaranteed rights rather than socialism, and the more countries are guaranteed freedom of religion, the more generous the public perception of homosexuality is. However, Korea is an economic powerhouse, a liberal democracy, and a country with various religions. Therefore, I analyzed that the reason why Korea's perception of gender identity is so conservative is not this reason, but the difference in race ratio. Unlike the US, Korea is a single nation with 99.8% of the people of Asian descent. Traditional culture and values have always been important in these mono-ethnic countries and are very conservative, so Koreans don't want to admit the difference. Also, if the difference is sexual, Koreans have a more conservative ideas. There seems to be a historical reason as well. Homosexuality has always been persecuted historically in the ancient royal family of Korea. Currently, persecution does not exist, but this history seems to be reflected in the current social perception. This social perception also appears in terms of institution of homosexuality. From now on, let's talk about the second legal issue. The preceding data are the figures for the laws and institutions for nation sexual minorities as analyzed by the ILGA, International Lesbian Gay Bisex Association. The darker the blue, the more generous the sexual minorities are and the better the law is in place for them. From a global perspective, professional Amy Adamczyk's analysis shows that homosexuality has not seen generous in developing countries such as Africa and socialist countries such as China and Russia. We can see that the US is relatively blue and Korea is white, which protects homosexuality to the minimum. There are many laws on homosexuality, but the most representative law would be same-sex marriage. In the United States, 38 states now include same-sex marriage, including New York State. It can be analyzed that same-sex marriage is legal in a state where 74.4% of the total population of the United States lives. In Albany, New York, where our school belongs, the law was revised in 2012 to protect sexual minorities from workplace discrimination. The system and executive orders include a clause that says we must sincerely strive to provide equal opportunities for all employees regardless of gender identity. In addition, the law has been revised to allow sexual minorities to receive various benefits, including health insurance and paid leave, which they have not received in the meantime. As such, many institutional protections are being made in the United States to match the social protection of homosexuals, but it's different in Korea. In Korea, where all men must serve in the military for 2 years, transgender and homosexual refuse to join the military. Those who refuse to join the military but are obliged to serve 2 years in the military have a law that requires 2 years in prison or community service. In contrast to the United States, it can be analyzed those laws violate gay rights. Finally, let me talk about the opposition to sexual minorities. Considering the traditional value and various social perception, there are many people who dislike homosexuality. Homosexuality is sometimes hated for no reason, but there are many rational reasons. There are two main reasons why anti-gay people oppose homosexuality. First, homosexuals mainly claim to be born with homosexuality and do so for unevitable reasons, but many psychiatrists say homosexuality is an acquired psychosis. In addition, homosexuals try to have a different sex from the one they were born with through a transgender that changes their gender. After seeing this phenomenon, many doctors define homosexuality as psychotic. Retired professor and psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins University, Paul R. McHugh, strongly criticized homosexuals for being transgender and trying to have different sex through hormone injection, comparing them to liposuction of anorexic children. Also, opponents of homosexuality think that homosexuals are dirty, boring, and homosexual because of their wrong sexual orientation. And they argue that homosexual sex between homosexuals is very wrong. This is the second major reason. HIV, which we commonly call AIDS, is a very high fertility disease that destroys the human immune system and makes human very weak, leading to death. It is said that the cause of this disease is mostly homosexual sex. According to the CDC survey of HIV in the United States, 69% of men's HIV symptoms in 2018 were caused by homosexual men. As this high figure show, homosexuality is a clear cause of dangerous HIV outbreaks that can lead to our deaths. Besides these two representative reasons, there are many people who oppose homosexuality for many religious and social reasons. I personally think both of reasons are valid. I agree that they are all right and homosexuality is not innate, but I am not sure whether homosexuality is defined as mental illness. But I think everyone has their own right and no one has the right to criticize other people's value. They are human being like us and cannot sympathize with their homosexuality as member of society, but I do not think they should blame or discriminate against them. As I did so much research and analysis on homosexuality, I felt that there needed to be many changes in perception around the world. Of course, opposition to homosexuality is reasonable and well-reasoned. As a straight person, I also have many homosexuals among my close friends, but I cannot relate to and understand their gender identity. But I do not think anyone has the right to criticize or discriminate against them. There are so many minorities and so many different people in this world this day. Among many minorities, sexual minorities seem to be more controversial and difficult to accept because they are related to their relatively sensitive gender identity. However, I think we should respect, protect, and understand others if they do not harm us. I think the mindset of acknowledging one's difference makes one to be respected. Also, legal systems are important, but I think many homosexuals being not afraid to speak out and media creating a mature society is really important. I hope the society to become where many sexual minorities can coexist with and live happily not only in Korea and the United States but also in the world. Thank you for listening to my presentation.